Welcome to my channel Arusa's English Stories. Learn English through stories. Loving you is my fault. Everything was going fine and Cedric started to live there as a family. Once Emmeline was putting his washed and ironed clothes inside the room when he went out to take photos as usual. He came back early and saw Emmeline doing that. He asked if she was the one who had been doing all chores for him. Cedric already knew that she is the only one who has been doing everything here but never paid attention to it. When she said yes, he came to realize that she was also struggling because of him. He told her not to do anything for him, just give him 3 meals a day. She was surprised when she heard him and tried to convince him that these are her duties as service provider, but he didn't listen to her. After that, Emmeline permitted him to come to her house to have meals with them. He started to help her with daily chores. He would go to explore nature in the early morning and helped her afterward. He helped them in every little thing like repairing things, doing laundry, tidying up tables and washing dishes, etc. Elira was very happy to have him in their life because this was the first time there was someone doing these things for them with care. She never saw her father Chesed, and Albert didn't pay much attention to these things and only studied hard to pursue the dream he had been having since childhood.
Cedric, your wife will be a lucky one that will have a perfect husband like you in the future.
Please, I never want to be a husband and bond to anyone.
Elira laughed after hearing him say that. She told him that he has been doing the same things as a husband would do for her wife. He was astonished after he realized what she said was true and couldn't believe himself. He always ran from marriage that bound a person to another. He has a free spirit and never stays in one place, but this time he couldn't mind being here, wondering why it was like this. Just like this winter season is about to end and snow stopped falling. It was the time Cedric should leave the guest room. Emmeline got the call from Albert that he would come back in 3 days. She was panicked and asked Cedric to leave. Cedric always knew that he would have to leave one day from here but couldn't bring himself to do that. He realizes how much this place and these people mean to him. Emmeline called Mr. Walker and asked him to find a room for Cedric as soon as possible. Mr. Walker found a place for Cedric and came to take him with him. Cedric went to their house to say goodbye when Albert came at the same time. They all fell silent when Albert asked who he was and what Mr. Walker was doing here. First they tried to lie to him by saying that Mr. Walker brought this tenant to show the guest room. He already saw the luggage Cedric had and caught them. He asked them the truth.
Tell me the truth, who is he?
They all sat down and told him everything. After hearing everything, first Albert didn't say anything and politely asked Cedric to leave. He felt a faint pain in his chest and couldn't tell what it was himself. Cedric left with Mr. Walker and Mr. Walker found new tenants for the Emmeline guest room after a few days. Emmeline also felt empty inside her heart after Cedric left. Everything was going the same way it was before he came to her life. One day Mrs. Jones asked Emmeline to work on her husband's bakery as a part-timer. Because it was the end of the year and festival season had started. They were in need of employees to work in the bakery.
Emmeline, my dear child, do you want to work in our bakery for the time being until festival season is over?
Emmeline agreed. After all, she would get some money and her heart emptiness would also be filled. Cedric was wandering in the festival to take photos where he saw Emmeline working in the bakery. He went inside the bakery without realizing and stood there in front of her. They both were looking at each other without saying anything. After seeing him standing there and looking at Emmeline, Mr. Jack Jones came and asked what Cedric wanted in his bakery. They both snapped out of it and he replied to him with a smile on his face.
Sorry, sir. I want some fresh baked bread filled with cream.
He didn't say hello to Emmeline because it wasn't appreciated to call out to her because there were a lot of people. He couldn't stop himself from thinking about her all night and went there in the early morning to buy bread. He has been going there every morning these days and people started to get suspicious. One day he went there and asked Mr. Jones to hire him as a part-timer because he is in need.
Hello, sir. My name is Cedric and I'm a tourist here. Could you hire me because I'm really in need of money?
Mr. Jones first suspected and didn't hire him, but he came many times there to ask for work, so he hired him because he was short on staff. Cedric was finally able to be with Emmeline and she was also happy when he started to work there but didn't show it. Emmeline hadn't said a word to Elira and Albert about Cedric working in the bakery with her. Just like this season ended and they were celebrating the last day of the festival in the bakery. It was also a goodbye party to the part-timers that they had been working very hard. In the festival season, Mr. Jones' bakery was always very busy. After the party was over, Cedric asked Emmeline for a stroll in the market.
Miss Forrest, would you like to have a stroll with me in the market for the last day of the festival? It will be a waste if we don't go to the festival even once after working so hard.
She thought that it would be all right to go with him, but Cedric convinced her that it was the last day of the festival and no one paid attention to them. She looked at him for a while then agreed. She couldn't bring herself to say no to him. They were wandering in the market where she saw the girls were making handbands and stood there to see them. Cedric asked her what those girls were doing there and Emmeline told him that it is a custom here to make handbands for their father, brother and lover. Cedric liked the sound of it and thought that it would be nice to have one made by Emmeline. She started to cry and Cedric gave her a handkerchief and asked why she suddenly started to cry. She didn't reply to him and kept silent.
It's okay if you don't want to tell me. I just wish to help you in any way possible, but I guess you still don't trust me as your friend.
She still hasn't said anything to him and he was continuing to comfort her. They were going back and Cedric was with her on the way to her house. She stopped in the middle and told him the reason. I miss my father and brothers.
I always made hand bands for them in the past.
Cedric asked her why she won't go to her family. She told him that she had a love marriage. Her family was against it and how they drove her from their lives. Cedric didn't say a word and just wiped out her tears. When they reached her house, he said something to her and went back.
Emmeline, I will reunite you with your family. I promise you.
He stood a little far when said these words to her. This was the first time Cedric called her name. Cedric looked everywhere in the town and asked many people but couldn't find anything about her family. Mr. Jones was going to the bakery when he saw Cedric on his way. He called him and asked him what he was doing here. Cedric told him that he was looking for Emmeline's family. Cedric knew that Mr. Jones cared about her and never spread rumors, so he asked him with ease.
Mr. Jones, do you know anything about Ms. Forrest family?
He asked him why he wanted to know about her family. He said that he wanted to reunite them because she missed her family. He was happy to know that there is finally someone who cares about her. He told him that she came from another town and this was her mother's town. The house she owned was her grandmother's inheritance and her mother gave it to her when her grandmother died. He also told him that her mother was the only person who contacted her in the past when she was in need only once. Cedric asked about the town where her family lives and went to meet them. When he reached her house, he found out that there were only 2 married brothers and her parents died. Her father couldn't forget her daughter and fell ill. Her mother missed her very much and died because of it before him. Her father had never forgiven her and asked his family to do the same. They told him that they would not be able to forgive her even if they wanted and asked him to leave from outside. Cedric didn't leave until they would forgive her. He went to them every day and asked them the same thing. After 2 weeks they gave up and called him inside to talk. They asked who he was and what his relationship with Emmeline was. He told them that he is her friend and everything she is going through. He tried to convince them. She was the only daughter of this house and everyone loved her dearly.
Do you think if you don't forgive her because of your father, will he be happy and peaceful in the sky? Wouldn't he be crying there after seeing her daughter struggling and sad? Please consider it.
After Cedric left, they thought about what he said and agreed to forgive her. Cedric came back to the town with her brothers and went to her house. Emmeline was washing clothes when they reached her house. She was surprised when she saw them and ran towards them without a second thought. She hugged her brothers tightly and didn't let go because she was afraid if she let go, they would disappear.
Emmeline, let us go. We are not going to leave you.
She first refused to let go after they convinced her that it wasn't a dream and came to meet her. She finally let go and cried very badly. They also cried with her.
Why is my lovely sister crying? Now stop crying. Oh, you wept my clothes with your hands. You are still clumsy as ever.
I really missed you, brothers. Never leave me alone again, please.
They went inside the house and Cedric was standing outside. They talked to each other and solved all misunderstandings. She apologized for her parents' death. She told them everything about her life. It was late at night. Emmeline came outside from the house after sending them to the room to rest. Cedric was still waiting for her. She looked at him with a smile on her face and hugged him tightly.
"Thank you, Cedric. I'm so happy that I can't even explain it. Thank you so much."
This was the first time Emmeline also called his name. His heart was beating so fast. He hugged her back and he said something that changed everything in a second.
I like you, Emmeline.
Continue.